Um, so I'm calling the meeting to order here at 6:04 p.m. on Monday, June 14th, 2021. I'll click this little continue button. So the primary purpose of this meeting is to get updates on the various endeavors of the Children's Guild DC Public Charter School. Seems like we're going to be covering a good amount of ground today, so everyone kind of please be mindful of the time allotted for your reports. That stated, I'll move to the public comment portion of the meeting, and I have just three. Sorry, okay. I've got three. First of all, at the end of May, I participated in the Ahead of the Curve virtual conference put on by the DC Public Charter School Board. It covered a lot of ground. One of the key takeaways from me from the meeting was how we all need to start embracing the idea that when talking about educating today's youth, it's important to keep in mind that we aren't talking about those kids, how those kids over there do things, or how those kids over there are doing the right or wrong things, but rather we should be relating the idea that those kids are really our kids. We're all in this together to educate the youth across the city. So whether there is success or failure to reach our goals, it is a success or failure of us all. So I thought it was kind of neat to see the Public Charter School Board really pushing the fight for equitable and inclusive communities, which brings me to point two. I just want to wish everyone, any and everyone, a happy Pride Month. I took a minute to find out why the month of June was chosen as it relates to an event called the Stonewall Uprising in 1969 in New York, which that was before my time, and I had never even heard of it. But it's an interesting, if any of you guys want to learn about why the month of June is chosen for Pride Month. And then finally, point three is wishing everyone who will be celebrating a happy Juneteenth. Next weekend is when most of the celebrations occur. So if we get a chance, please carve out some time to visit an event. There are a lot of small businesses that are marketing their services or wares, and it's a way to become more aware of what these businesses offer and taste some good food. That's all I have for public comment. If anyone else has anything they'd like to share at this time. Do we have a quorum yet?
We do.
Okay. So then we just need to make a motion to, everyone has gotten the minutes from the previous meeting, emailed to them prior to this meeting. So we need to, I guess, to look at them to see if there's any corrections that need to be made to them. Having heard no further corrections, we can go ahead and approve the minutes. And this will, I guess, move us to the principal's report from Dr. Daniels. The floor is yours, sir.
Did we get a approval of the minutes? Someone second and I approve it?
Oh, did we get a movement? I'm kind of rolling. Did someone move?
I'll slow you down, Mr. Seabrooks.
And then can we get a movement on the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. All in favor of approving the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. All opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none in opposition, the minutes are approved as recorded. Now we can move to the principal's report from Dr. Daniels. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I hope today finds you all with some peace, some happiness, and a little bit of love in your life. I know it has been a difficult school year for all of us, but being able to make it to the end of another school year and to see progress and success that is happening, not just with our kids, but with our community as a whole, with our staff. I'm always happy to see another day. So it's not always the big successes. Sometimes we just have to relish in the small ones. So I have a couple of things that I would like to share with you all tonight, just to let you know how we're kind of finished out the school year and a little bit about where we're going next school year. And I'm kind of gonna do a little bit of backwards mapping here. So as we move into next school year, we're gonna be shifting a bit of our the school structure and the model. This year, with the way that things were going with our budget and our census was low, I kind of made a determination to shift our instructional model and found myself at some points of the school year feeling like I was sinking and drowning just because there was so much that was on my plate, and decided to go back to a more traditional school structure model that will provide not just myself, but the students with more of more alignment and more support to be able to meet the needs of what's necessary inside of the classroom, but also begin to expand on the vision of our school to really work towards being a visual performing and creative art school. So as you can see at the top tier of the senior leadership will be myself, an elementary school principal, a middle school principal. Many of you have met our director of special education, Dr. Jackson, and also our director of school operations, Miss Estep. Now underneath of them, I think some of you have also met Miss Kirk. She's our dean of academics. We're going to do a slight shift with her in the upcoming school year, just to really make sure that we are getting our curriculum and all of the direction of the visual performing and creative arts program together, because we are really going to be creating something anew. There are programs that do this very well at a high school level, but very few that are doing it at an elementary and doing it well at a middle school level. So we're really looking to be building from the ground up, but taking our cues and our model from some of the programs around us that are effective. We are bringing in, and I failed to put his name, but a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Boucher, who is going to be our VPCA coordinator, who is coming to us from Suitland High School, is very adept and knowledgeable and has many relationships with the staff and family over at Duke Ellington, along with the Baltimore School of the Arts, and has been doing this work now for upwards of 20 years and is bringing a wealth of knowledge to our staff. So we're really excited about the growth and the direction that we're going to be going with that. This model, again, is just going to be able to make sure that we are continuing to put our academics at the forefront of what it is that we're looking to do as we continue to grow our program. And just wanted to give you a quick visual of that. And I'm sure Elisa will share the PowerPoint with you, so you'll have it to be able to refer to, and don't hesitate to ask any questions around it. Mr. Medley is going to be new to the leadership team. He's coming to us with a wealth of knowledge in the field of elementary school and an instructional rigor. He is also a linguist. He speaks Spanish fluently and has been in multiple different programs in the District of Columbia as an instructional leader. And I'm just happy to say that I want to fight against DCPS to get him away from the public school, and he is coming to join us next school year with a wealth of knowledge, and is really excited about a new venture and being able to create something with our charter school. So we're really excited about him. Ms. Danielle Johnson is already a current member of our staff. She is one of our instructional coaches. But she has been a part of another charter school startup in the district, and has many different ties in the community and in the instructional community in the public charter realm, and is bringing another sense of security and structure and an instructional really genius to me for what it is that she does to our middle school program. So I'm really excited about the direction of the new leadership team that will be at the forefront of what it is that we're doing for the upcoming school year. Oh, sorry, I see this was a bad slide to use. Sorry about that, and we'll get that switched up. So with the end of the year iReady data, I just wanted to use this slide to kind of show you that even though we had a lot of students that didn't attend school on a regular basis, and attendance was an issue, and we have several cases of truancy, just due to the pandemic. We did see a lot of kids show up for their assessments, to the rate of only missing, we have 250 of 281 for reading, and 258 out of the 284 for math. So not where we wanted it to be for participation, but given the circumstances, I'm not completely upset with it. But we did what we could to try to sway them to participate a little bit more. But again, when they're not in what they would consider to be a safe setting and a comfortable space, it's kind of hard and difficult to try to sit and focus for the type of assessment that we're looking for them to do when it comes to iReady. So to kind of look at some of that data, most of you know that 50% is our target for instructional growth. As of where it stands right now, because we're still, we have about 4 more days to catch up with some of the kids, the 30 plus in each of the areas that did not assess, or just a couple that not just they didn't assess, but we have several that rushed through the assessment. When you rush through your assessment, and already it gives you a flag, and so we're trying to track down some kids, get them into a breakout room, or even potentially get them up to the school to test individually, so we can really get a better sense of where kids are as we close out the school year. But again, the 40% of the kids making progress. Again, I'm not going to shine a light on the negativity. I will take that 40% in this new world of learning where we weren't able to actually touch our kids as a good place to start, and to make sure that we have a good grounded program to be able to build upon when we do get back into brick and mortar as early as ESY in the next month when we start our extended school year program. I know I'm trying to watch my time. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to the next slide? All righty. So again, as we get into the numbers, many of you have seen these numbers before, and the ones that have shifted are the ones that are down at the bottom. We are at about 99 students that are completely registered for the upcoming school year. We have about 15 to 20 new kids that are in the pipeline, and about another 10 to 15 students that have parents who have started registration, but just have not completed it. And it's the same way for our returning students as well. So what we're really looking at doing as it comes to retention and recruitment, not just the staff, but also of students around at admissions, we are putting together some staff to be able to go out and complete registrations at houses for parents or in the community. Myself personally, I'm going to be making some trips out into the community as well to help with some of the recruitment efforts. I feel like the time is now, with the way that things are shifting in the district. I want to put my recruitment hat back on, as I did when we first started the program 6 years ago. And we landed at about 385 kids, and I was really the only person that was out beating the street. So want to see if I can also just be an impact back in that way, and make a push to get us some new students this summer, along with making sure that we are staying in contact with some of the students that we lost contact with. We're getting back in contact with the ones we lost contact with towards the end of the school year due to the transitions and people just moving all around the city. We have hired 2 new teachers from our urban teacher partnership that now makes 5 in the last 2 years that have turned into wonderful teachers for our school and for our community. I put here that it also adds staff diversity. It just so happens that the 4 of the 5 teachers that we have hired have been Caucasian, and they really bring a different dynamic to our building that our kids need to see, that our kids need to feel that they're being embraced by not just people that look like them, so that they, just have a better sense of the world and their community. So I'm really a fan of the Urban Teacher Program right now. We have a hiring event that's coming up for therapeutic behavioral aides that will happen at the beginning of January. We have our two recruitment and social media marketing individuals that are out in the community. They've been to events that were outside of RFK and a couple of community events in Southeast to try to raise awareness and get parents information about our school, and how we can just be a part of their community. So, and I talked to you already about some of the home visits and things that we're looking to do around retention and re-enrollment. We are also looking to build our community of education and partnerships with some of the universities in the area. Have 2 open communications and dialogue with UDC and Howard. Also looking to make contact with Trinity. Kathy has gotten us a connection with Bowie State University, so we're kind of making our rounds, and also going to be looking to get in contact with somebody over at the University of Maryland, as all of these schools in the area just have some rich related service and special needs and education programs that we could potentially leverage, as we also continue our partnership with the GW University. We're sending 3 of our current teachers into the graduate program at GW to get a master's in special education and human development started this year. We had 1 teacher that graduated in the program just last month. So we're also continuing that partnership that is really helping us to keep our staff, learning, engaged, and feeling like that we're going to pour back into them, which also helps with our retention as we continue to hold on to staff members year after year, as opposed to the revolving door that we had a couple of years ago. And it felt like we weren't moving anywhere. Now we have a stable sense of a staff and a community that's really helpful to us building the instructional rigor that's happening in our program. As before, we are still, struggle on the struggle bus when it comes to attendance. Of course, after the weather shifted and things started getting nice, and after spring break, kids and families just started to kind of disengage, but we've done the best that we can. We do have we're working towards getting through some of these kids that are on our truancy list right now, and getting in contact with parents and families to make sure that they understand that we are here to support them and to help them through the issues. But I'm sure a lot of this will re-engage and go back up to our norm once we get kids back into the building in the upcoming school year. Again, over there in the black are just a couple of the events that we're looking to do throughout July out in the community, in terms, or even at the school, in terms of there's some recreation days, a school supply day, some popsicle fitness, and some ice cream socials to kind of, re-engage the community and get kids back to the building before we start the school year. And as I close out, I have a couple of things to share. Some couple of videos around our kindergarten and our 8th grade activities. Well, before I do that, did anybody have any question about the numbers or any of the information I shared about retention or recruitment?
Brian, could we get a copy? I don't know if I don't recall whether we got a copy of this in our materials for tonight, but could you have this shared with the board?
Absolutely. We'll make sure that gets sent out now. Elisa, I didn't send it to her till shortly before the meeting, so I'm sure she'll send it if she hasn't already sent it out.
It's in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
You to Ms. Davis and to Ms. Smith for your wonderful support and education for these wonderful babies throughout the school year. First graders, because you're no longer kindergartners anymore, we can't wait to have you back into the building for next school year. I know you didn't get an opportunity to come to the school and have fun like you wanted to this year, and we really missed the opportunity.
Carter, you are in what you call it, okay?
Can you please love the way that you participated, and we can't wait to have you back into the school
Mr.
building
Daniels,
for your first grade year.
you're not sharing the screen.
Am I not? It
No.
says stop sharing on this side.
You have to stop share and then share again because it's not sharing it properly.
Would you like me to pull it up for you, Mr. Daniels?
It was sharing your PowerPoint.
Hey, try this one. See it now?
That's
Yeah,
it.
you had to stop sharing and resharing. There you go.
In the 21-22 school year. So have an absolutely awesome summer. We love you. We love all of the hard work, and congratulations on completing the kindergarten. Take care.
Come get it.
Excuse me. Okay, so there is one rule throughout.
So inevitably, we always have parents and things that don't have their phones, I mean, their cameras on mute, and we get some
This
child
ceremony,
rearing in
we're
the
asking that
background.
everybody remain on mute just to make sure that we're respecting our norms, which is respecting ourselves, others, and our environment. Okay. All right. So our proud graduates, the kindergarten class of 2021 at the Children's Guild is as follows. All right, we have our handsome Kane Allen, and under Kane Allen's award list, he is an imaginative artist, a math magician, and a very friendly neighbor, okay? And this is Kane. Kane is moving on up to that big first grade. Congratulations. All right, next up we have Makai Brown, and Makai Brown's recognitions are a spectacular spirit, the joyful jokester, and most curious, okay? So congratulations to Makai Brown.
And that just goes on for the other 8 kids or so that are a part of that group. So we are really excited and about our new first grade group as they transition from kindergarten. Last Friday, we had our first annual sneaker ball here at the school. And these are some of the kids that came out to participate. They were extremely excited to see one another, of course, as they haven't been in each other's presence for, over a year now. So them getting back to the school building to be able to participate was absolutely awesome. Staff showed up and showed out as well in their little ball gowns and suits and sneakers, and everybody just had a good time. It was just a great way to create an opportunity for kids to be able to come back to the school and have a closeout to this difficult year. And they were extremely happy and excited about the activity. Then that following Monday, we had our promotion ceremony that also happened virtually. It's probably gonna tell me to stop sharing again. Well, it's in the chat. It's kind of long, but if you were to kind of scroll through, and towards the end there is a section where kids are sharing what they well, some of their favorite parts around being at the Children's Guild was, and that is just a really inspirational portion for me. And closing out the school year and still having parents that are coming up and saying, Mr. Daniels, you broke your promise. And I was like, what promise? And they're like, you said we were going to have a high school and my kids weren't going to have to leave, but now they have to go to another school. But that is still, just a space that lets us know that we are doing something right, and the families are happy with the instruction and the space that we're providing for their children to be able to come and receive their education. So that is the end of my report. Any questions for moi? All right, Mr. Seabrook, I am done for the evening.
Thank you, Brian.
That was really, yeah, thank you, Dr. Daniels. That was really fast. I guess so the next point on our agenda is to talk about, I guess the next three things: increasing membership, board member terms, and the appointment of officers for 2021 and 22. So increasing membership, we are looking to bring on new members to the board. If any of you know people who may be interested, please talk with them and ultimately submit their information to the governance committee for review. We all know we need as much help as possible with our committees, especially as it relates to defining and transitioning to our new brand. We have documented description of the responsibilities of the board members. It's about 20 bullets that people should be familiar with. In addition, we have the documented description of the charges for the committees and the responsibilities, which you have probably received previously. But if anyone needs another copy, just contact Ms. Lane or administration support. They should be able to get a copy to you. Does anyone have anything to add on to that particular point about membership? Okay.
I have, Mr. Seabrooks, I'm sorry. I have a candidate that I would like to bring forth to the governance committee for consideration. What information other than the candidate's name would the governance committee like to review in order to determine if the candidate is a good one?
Michael, can you expound on that? I would think resume and maybe phone number at least.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll pose that question to him again once the committee gives their report.
This is Maria. I would just maybe suggest any background, Kathy, on the candidate, how you know them, why you're recommending them, why you think they'd be a good fit for the board.
Sure. I mean, do you want me to do that verbally?
Well, just maybe, something to share offline with the governance committee,
Okay.
along with the resume, as Rob had mentioned. I think that would get us the information we need to start with.
Okay, thank you.
So the next bullet point in this section is dealing with the board member terms. We only have one position that's up for renomination this year, and that's Ms. Bonds. So the governance committee will be reaching out to her. Is she on? I don't know if she's on. Yeah, the governance committee will be reaching out to you to find out, what your plans are going forward. And then that brings us to the appointment of officers for 21-22. As it stands right now, I'm interested in reappointing the officers that are in place right now. So please contact me if you have a desire to step down or take on a different role than what you currently are doing. The next bullet point is going to be talking about the facility update. And I actually don't have any information on this myself. I don't know if you can cover this, Ms. Lane or Dr. Daniels, or is this something that's going to be updated in the MEF committee? As far as the playground, I know that's one of the items that they're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's all kind of tied into one, and there's nothing, no documents or anything per se to share, but we just wanted the board to be aware that when Dr. Ross had put out the playgrounds for bid, we we were also simultaneously pursuing the visual performing creative arts, programming and talking about, where the stage would go and where the dance studio would go, and, kind of looking at the facility to accommodate, the music, the arts, the dance, and all of the others associated with putting together such a program. And the current facility we have really can't really accommodate that kind of growth. And then secondarily, we had, an incident in the community regarding one of our bus drivers was carjacked in our parking lot and struck by the carjacker and hospitalized with serious injuries. Thankfully, she's doing better. And, coupled with our year after year challenge with enrollment. And, when you don't have to kind of look very far to determine that we're not in a neighborhood that can easily recruit kids and families, and in fact, we're not only not in a neighborhood, but we sit comfortably between, a marijuana distribution factory, a nightclub, and a bar. Then they add on top of that, the street is a one-way street, no exit. It's a dead-end street. So our transportation year after year is really challenging. If you've ever been there at bus dismissal or drop pickup, the buses are navigating a very small space, lots of cars, lots of buses, lots of kids moving. It's just not an ideal situation. So when the playground got added into that, we're like, should we really be investing like in a $400,000 playground to stick in this facility when it's got so many other challenges? And with the pandemic and so many people moving out of the city and businesses moving out of the city, our lobbyist, was able to kind of identify some potential school spaces that might be available. And then finally, our corporate office, we're seeking to move to a District of Columbia location. So we're currently engaged and actively pursuing, a location with the realtor in the District of Columbia. And so we added to their search, a potential school that could be either adjacent to, nearby the corporate office or not. And so all of those variables put together, kind of started to coalesce here in the last, month and a half. And so we really just thought it was appropriate to bring to this board's attention that we were, looking at alternate properties. That said, we are in a current lease with the building landlord that's, it's not at its term. So it would potentially involve, getting out of a contract if he was able, to work with us on that, and it wasn't going to be too costly for us. So we just wanted this board to be aware that work is occurring. We're happy to answer any questions, or Brian, if I neglected to add anything.
Yeah, I kind of echo that notion about the cost of the playground, given that, I don't know that we necessarily want to pour so much money into a location that we probably want to move at some point, if an opportunity presents itself. So I'm interested to hear what the marketing, the MEF committee has on that coming up.
And just for this board's knowledge, we, for those who have known, like 2 years ago, we lost our charter in Baltimore, and we have a facility there, and we moved the $400,000 playground to one of our other schools. And ultimately, it cost as much to move it as it cost in the first place. So, we had already had experience with, the notion of moving a playground, and this one was going to be so unique to the space. If you'll recall, it was very narrow and long. But if you got to a facility, a school with, a playground, it would actually probably be very odd to have such a narrowly shaped linear playground. So the notion of, moving it from one location when we were able to find another location doesn't necessarily make as much fiscal sense as putting a short-term hold on it, at least until we do our due diligence about if there's another property that might work out better.
Any other questions for Ms. Lane or comments? Having heard none, we will move to the next bullet point on our agenda, and that's Mr. Turner providing a lot of results and the brand recruitment. I don't see him here, so we'll table that until he does.
Brian's prepared. I'm sorry, Mr. Seabrooks. Brian's
Okay.
prepared to deliver that report. Mr. Turner had a last-minute conflict.
Got you. Dr. Daniels, floor is yours again.
Yeah, so these were just, the numbers that were embedded in that PowerPoint, and I kind of spoke to Ms. Better and Ms. Nash, and they've been they've gone to several different community events that happen at RFK and in the parks and the community centers in Ward 7 and Ward 8. As we continue to ramp up the recruitment efforts this summer, we're going to be looking more towards libraries and spaces where kids typically go in the summer, whether it be the YMCA, whether it be the Boys and Girls Clubs, as they begin to open back up and we start to see more and more traffic back in those spaces. Those are going to be areas that we are going to frequent to come in contact with some parents and community members. And we've also been in contact with some of the other, the faith-based community in the area with opportunities to market at some of their food giveaway or their weekend events and activities. So just finding our way into any and all community events that are going on to potentially help us to touch as many kids as we possibly can this summer in an effort to build on our new student recruitment to replace the 65 eighth graders that we transitioned this year going into high school, to not just sustain the current enrollment, but hopefully to increase it to upwards of 350 as we had it 2 years ago.
Dr. Daniels, do you know if we have ever considered maybe participating in some of these Juneteenth events that happen throughout the city as a chance to recruit?
I don't think that we have. Thinking back, yeah, that's something that we haven't done, and I think it's something that we need to look into. I don't remember us really hitting any one of those particular. Well, actually, they're actually becoming more prevalent, over the past couple of years than they have been in the past. So it's probably a good idea, Rob, for us to look into that. I'll make a note of it and mention it to Brandon tomorrow.
Other thing is I participate in this, I don't know, it's a group, they call themselves Competitive by Nature, and they put on these different things really. But one of the things they do is they offer a free haircuts to boys on, I want to say it's the second Saturday of every month, or it's one day, one of those weekend days out of the month, and they do it right over there at Anacostia Park. And that could also be not only something that some of our students may want to, take advantage of, but it could be an opportunity to kind of, get our names out there too. So I will send you that information, and so that we can look into it a little bit further.
Yeah, and that would be a great event and activity as well, because we can share that with our families that live down in that area and they can participate. What we do when we have our events at the school, whether it be, the ice cream social or the summer fling, because we usually do it in the spring, but obviously, we weren't at a point where we could have, larger events. But yeah, we do hair cutting. Myself and the dean of students, we cut hair all year long.
Okay.
Just for different events and things of that nature. But when we have to do things that are more structured and organized, because we're in the midst of a recruitment season, we partner with the area barbershops. There's also a barber school, right up on Bladensburg Road. And so we have a lot of different things where, we have guys cutting hair, we have young ladies that'll come and do hair. Some of our staff, they do nail, we go all out, and it's a great way to, make sure that the kids and the families have something to participate in and do. Yeah, definitely send me that information about the Anacostia thing, because we have a lot of kids down in that space. Easy access is key in the district. And if they can walk to it, they'll show up.
I guess you're gonna be up next, unless anyone else has any other questions about the marketing and branding recruitment window, because the next bullet is Middle States accreditation process and the timeline for that. So,
Right, so we just met with our accreditation board, the Middle States Accreditation Agency, and they gave us an overview I guess was last Thursday morning, which is really informative, and things will really kick up in the fall. And we'll have our visit in October, and they laid out all the documentation and evidence and artifacts that we need to have uploaded in their system by the end of August. And then they'll review all of our documentation, evidence, and artifacts, and then come for, at this point, it will be a virtual on-site visit where there'll be a tour of the building. They'll be interviewing this board to solicit your feedback. They'll be interviewing a segment of our parents, a segment of our staff, a segment of our students over the course of their visits to kind of get their feedback and see if it aligns with the written evidence and artifacts and data that we provide. And then after the full day site visit, they'll analyze everything and kind of come back and give us feedback and either provide us our accreditation or things that we need to work on in order to achieve our accreditation. So it's a really big step for a school to become accredited in this way. We've been working at it for about 1.5 years now, and it is a requirement of our charter. So next fall's culminating visit, and their analysis will be very important to the future of the school. It's not like if you don't get accredited the first time, you can't go back with the additional documents or evidence that they seek. You clearly can, but it's always best to get it done, the first time around. That will be our goal.
a great goal to shoot for, and I'm confident that we will get it. Any questions about the Middle States accreditation? Having heard none, all of you see in the agenda what the board calendar will be for 2021-22. Any questions about that? Do we have, I guess we're looking to see if there's people that want to do virtual or in-person preference, what that is amongst the group. Opening the floor. Does anyone have a preference as to what format they want the meetings to be in, as far as virtual or in person? Because I think the last time we kind of touched on this, we were thinking about a hybrid. Some of it would be in person, some of it would be virtual, but
Robert, I would suggest that we send out a doodle poll of, just a simple question, whether people want to meet in person or virtual.
Yeah. I like that. You said a survey monkey or?
So yeah, just any type of
Yeah.
way of doing that, just to make sure that we touch base with everybody. I know Marie just said she likes a hybrid. I like a hybrid, but let's make sure we hear from everybody.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great idea. So we'll get that out to everyone so that everyone can chime in and proceed as necessary. The next part of our agenda is to get the committee reports. So that stated, we will start with the governance committee, Mr. Karan.
Thank you. The governance committee, I guess we've taken a bit of a vacation. We haven't met since the last board meeting. So I think just a lot was going on for everybody. You may recall that we did pass the changes to the bylaws at our last meeting. And our focus going forward will be to try to identify people
Kind of freezing for me. Is he freezing for anyone else?
Yeah, it's a little choppy.
Yeah. Michael, we're losing you a little bit.
Serve in the other board members to an officer capacity, and then additional people for the board, since I think we'll schedule a committee meeting within the next 2 weeks, and we'll start.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat just the last, I guess, maybe 2 minutes of what you just stated, because you were kind of choppy.
Oh, sorry. I will reach out to the other committee members, and we'll schedule a meeting in the next couple weeks to start moving towards reaching out to figure out how we're going to reach out to people to serve as officers, and also start to try to identify new potential board members.
Thank you. Any questions for, Ms. Caputo kind of chimed in earlier when Kathy had raised the issue that she had a person of interest for to be submitted to the governance committee. And she was asking whether, what kind of information you guys wanted. And I guess Marie stated that she wanted, some background as to how Ms. Lane knows the person, along with the resume and contact number. Was there any other information that you think the governance committee may need in that regard?
No, I mean, if any of the board members have ideas of other potential board members that they want to submit for our consideration, please, reach out to any one of Angelo and Marie and I are the committee members. So please feel free to send us any thoughts that you have about potential board members. And if any of you have an interest in serving in an officer position, please let us know. And if we don't hear from anyone, we'll start reaching out and seeing if we can at least have conversations with some of you around that. And if you are interested and you do have a resume, please attach that to your email. Angelo, Marie, do you have anything else that you'd want to add or suggest?
Oh, just looking forward to anyone that's willing to join or take a position.
I have a question. How many board members are we looking for?
Well, we have 13 currently, and I think we have 2 or 3 that are rolling off. And so I think we want to at least replace those.
Okay.
And maybe add another 1 or so.
Okay, thank you.
We seem to also struggle to get a quorum from meeting to meeting. So even though we have 13, it's hard to get 7 to attend on it. So we probably need to just bulk up that that 13.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we will hear from the Marketing Enrollment, the MEF Committee. Miss Yolanda, is she here? Yes. Floor is yours, Yolanda.
Yes, I'm here. Nothing new to report. And I guess I'm also looking for more members to the committee. If anyone wants to join the committee, but nothing new. The last item that we were looking at those things were specifically related to the playground.
Any questions about that? Having heard none, we will go to the Parent Engagement Committee. Thank you, Yolanda. The PIAC Committee, Ms. Thomas, Seema.
Hello.
Hey.
So we have had a series of one-on-one meetings over the past few weeks with Melody, Myra, and Tiffany. We began drafting a concept note and we started drafting a communications action plan. We realized that this summer is an opportune time to finalize it, put together some ideas that we want to put forward for the upcoming school year based on the experience of this past year. We're also trying to incorporate a historical perspective into it and obviously try to build room for feedback, iteration, because it'll be a work in progress likely. So I think I think our primary focus overall is to focus on the engagement between parents and teachers, but also think about how that might look like in multiple formats. So that's what we're hoping to, and we're hoping to meet again this Wednesday to discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you, Seema. Any questions for Seema? Having heard none, thank you all the committee chairs for your reports. We will go to the next bullet point, which is to hear the current financial report from Mr. Gordon.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Previously, you received the report from Elisa with the other packets, and you'll see that we're starting to get to a standardization of this reporting. So it should look familiar. It's very similar to last time, with the addition of, we've updated the ratio reporting to be all of the financial FAR reporting that's required by the DC board. This will become our standard set of metrics and something to measure against and monitor throughout the school year. So with that, I'll move right into the statement of revenue expenditures trend report. What you're looking at are financials as of April 30th, the most recent available. Again, there's an issue of not being able to produce anything until the 20th of the following month. So May is not currently available. And that's why we're looking at April. You'll see that revenues are about $1.5 million behind budget. They're also running $1.5 million behind last year to date. That has to do with enrollment, has to do with COVID. On the other side of the coin, personnel costs are $958,000 below budget and $550,000 below last year to date. Our total operating expenses are $1.8 million below budget, and that makes up for the revenue budget shortfall. They're also $1.9 million behind or below prior year to date. So the change in total net assets, that's the bottom there, is running $450,000 to the good against budget and $593,000 ahead of last year. Fundraising and grants are running $140,000 ahead of budget and $206,000 ahead of prior year to date. Given all of this, it looks like we're on track to beat the budgeted change in net assets, but I'm not going to promise any specific number, but we are ahead of our budget, and that looks good for cash in the bank moving forward into the next fiscal year. Are there any questions about the revenue and expenditures report? Okay, we're going to move on to the balance sheet, which is the next page in this report. And you'll see that the cash balance as of the balance sheet date of April 30th was $822,000 than it was a year ago. As of this morning, we had $3,025,569 in the bank. That's very good. Our total current assets are about $700,000 higher than they were in the last report we shared as of 2/28. And this is mostly due to an increase in cash balance and the accounts receivable. Because of that, our total assets have also increased $700,000 since last reporting, again, related to cash and accounts receivable. Intercompany payables are much higher versus the prior period reporting. This is a timing issue, and it actually relates to the increase in the accounts receivable of the prior period reporting. Get to the bottom, cut to the chase. The total net assets have increased about $225,000 over the prior reporting period. So that is in fact a good trend. As I mentioned at the beginning of this short report, these are DC's FAR, financial accounting reporting requirements. And this is the financial piece. There are certain operating pieces that focus around enrollment. We've already heard about them, so they're not included in this. So I'm going to run through these and explain them to you because it's the first time we're looking at them. Also note at the very bottom of this, below a gap in the lines, are 3 other ratios that we look at that are not part of DC's FAR reporting requirements, but we're going to monitor them as well. So I'm going to start with the very top row, which is change in net asset margin. And there's a definition of this. This is also akin to a net operating ratio. And this measures the efficiencies for service providers. An upward trend is desirable. And DC is looking for greater than 0% and no more than 5% negative. And so we were a year ago, based on those figures, at negative 4.29. We're now at negative 0.68, which means we've moved considerably in the right direction, and we're approaching that 0, and I think we'll get there by the end of this year. The next ratio is the aggregated 3-year margin, which is essentially what we just looked at, but over a 3-year period. It encapsulates a longer period. And so DC wants us to be above 0% and below negative 1.5% is bad. You will see what's happening here in the shift between the right column, which is prior year to date at 4/30/2020 versus 2/21, is that it's gone from negative 1.32 to negative 2.7. That's because it's a 3-year look back. And in 2020, we were looking back into 2018, where we actually had a positive net income. And in the 3 years in the look back period for 2021, as of April, they were all losses. So that's why the number's larger. I don't think that this is a great concern, even though it is in excess of negative 1.5. We think that by the end of the year, we'll be closer to negative 1.5. And given the good trends and the positive figures in the other ratios, we think we should be fine with the charter board. And there'll be a conversation around it with the charter board, but we don't anticipate a great deal of problems with this. Previously, I showed you a number of months of cash on hand, and what DC looks for is the days of cash on hand. And so what you can see here is, and DC wants at least 45 days. Last year, we were at 105 days of cash on hand. Today, we're at 136 days of cash on hand. So again, a good upward trend. The next ratio is cash flow from operations margin, which basically talks about how much cash operations have generated, divided and what percentage they are of the operating revenues. DC wants us to be above 0%. A year ago, we were at negative 1%. This year, we're at April 30th, we're at 3%. So that's very good. It's a good trend, and it's well above the required minimum. Next on the chart are our current ratio, which is defined as current assets divided by current liabilities. And this talks about our ability to pay off our current liabilities with the current assets by liquidating them. An upward trend is desirable. Anything over 1 is what DC is looking for. We went from 3.36 to 3.59, so that's good. We're going in the right direction, and it's points of very healthy management of cash and receivables, as well as minimizing our liabilities. The next ratio is our debt ratio, which talks about our average total debt divided by our average total assets. And this talks about our ability to pay off all of our debt with all of our assets. A downward trend is desirable. DC wants between 0.5 and 0.9. A year ago, we were at 0.87. Now we're at 0.8. So we're moving in the right direction. We're approaching that 0.5. And again, the downward trend is desirable. So that's good. The next ratio is the debt service coverage ratio, which talks about our ability to pay off loan payments as they come due. And an upward trend is desirable. DC is looking for us to be able to do that at least 1.2 times. A year ago, we were able to do it 0.97 times. Now we're able to do it 3.61 times. So again, very healthy trend, good stable number for the organization. The last financial ratio that DC looks at is the primary reserve ratio, which measures our assets relative to the operating budget for the year. An upward trend is desirable. They want us to be above 0.25. We're not quite there yet. Below 0 is bad. We've been above 0. A year ago, we were at 0.004. Now we're at 0.07. So we're moving considerably in the right direction, and I have faith we'll get there. So that wraps up what DC Charter Board looks at. And now we'll look at 3 other measures that we look at internally. One is the program service expense ratio, which talks about the expenses that relate to running the programs and services as opposed to our administrative costs. And the higher that number, the better. These are both, one is at 95% a year ago, the other is at 93% this year. Anything above 90% is considered to be good. So we're still in a healthy place. And this is just has to do with our expenses related to our program service expenses related to our total expenses. The next thing that we look at is our defensive ratio, which is the months of cash on hand as opposed to the days of cash on hand, which we've already talked about. Again, it's a good trend. We've got more cash in the bank. We've got more receivables that are liquid. And so we're moving in the right direction. The last thing here is a liquidity ratio, which looks at our ability to pay all liabilities with our current assets. And I need to apologize. This report that you're looking at has a bad formula in the 4/30/2020 column of 85.8. That number is in actuality 0.53, as opposed to our year-to-date in 2021, which is actually 0.72. So we've moved in the right direction. I just had an error in my formula. I caught it this afternoon as I was putting together these prepared remarks. I apologize for that. I can fix it and send it back out. That ends the financial report and ratio information. Are there any questions about any of that?
I do have one question. Thank you for this. As far as the ratios, the 3 that we are kind of benchmarking internally, are we comparing these to any of our peers or any other schools in the district?
We don't have this information for other schools in the district. I do this for our charter schools in Anne Arundel County. I can present that column as a 3rd column to compare, or our 3rd and 4th column. I can use both years against against our Anne Arundel County. Happy to do that for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, you got it. All right, add AA. All right, are there any other questions about the financial report itself?
I'm gonna have to start calling you Good News Gordon with those kind of numbers.
Well, it's always easier to share good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a nice way to end the season, the school year, right? We have one more item on the agenda for the finance group, and that is the audit engagement letter. So every year we have to sign a letter that engages our external auditors to produce the audit for the year. That used to be due in August, and the DC Charter Board has changed some things around, and now they want that at the beginning of June. They surprised us with that because this needs the approval of the board in order to sign this audit engagement letter. We found out about it, and it's past the due date. The good news is we called them up and said, hey, you moved the goalposts, and could we have an extension to the end of this week, the week following this board meeting? And they said, sure. And so now next year we'll know about that. So, because it's a change that they made and they snuck in on us. So we do have the extension where everything's in good standing. We have brought to the board a new auditor, which is not actually a new auditor for the Children's Guild, but it's a new auditor for the Children's Guild DC Charter School. And that is because they were not in prior years approved through the DC Charter Board. There was, they did not apply on time. However, they're the auditors for all of our other schools and all the other organizations that are part of the Children's Guild. And we've been working with them for a long time. The group we were with last year was a new group that we'd never worked with before, and they were actually a challenge to work with, and they were late in delivering some reporting, which I don't know if you recall earlier this year that we had to get an extension to actually deliver those reports. And so I recommend this other team for several reasons. One, last year our cost was $17,500. The new group for us is they've put an engagement out for $17,000. So there's a $500 savings. That's step one. Step two, a big piece of any financial audit is to review internal control procedures. And because we use the same internal control procedures for our other schools that we operate and for all the other organizations that we operate, the same set of internal controls are going to be audited multiple times. So the number of questions that they ask about that is spread over different schools. And once they get the understanding from one organization that this is how we do things, and we've passed muster with them for the past 3 years, it'll pass muster here. It will be easier and faster to get to the finished audit. And so I recommend approving this for those two reasons. And it's up to the board now to make a motion and approve so that Mr. Seabrooks can actually sign the engagement letter and we can get it back to the DC board. And if not, I'll go back to the drawing board.
Any questions?
Just one more comment. The board did extend our deadline, and as Mr. Gordon recognized, they are expecting the letter tomorrow. We told them we had the board meeting tonight. So we'll have a quick turnaround, Mr. Seabrooks, on your signature if the board approves.
I'm ready to roll. So let's can I get a motion to approve the engagement letter?
I make a motion to approve the engagement letter, sorry.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Having not heard any opposed, the board approves the engagement letter.
Thank you.
So that's it for Mr. Gordon's portion. I'm opening the floor for any other business that the board would like to discuss right now. So please, if you have any comments. And having heard none, we will make a move to adjourn this meeting. This meeting is now adjourned at 7:12 p.m. 6/14/21. Thanks for everybody coming on time and kind of getting through your pieces in a timely fashion.